Hi guys, and welcome back to the Emily Knits channel. My name is Emily. I am a knitter and crocheter in my mid-30s based in the north of Nottinghamshire in the UK, where I live with my other half and our two dogs close to Sherwood Forest, one of whom is coming to see because one of you calls him my co-host, and honestly he's starting to become my co-host. He knows that when I'm filming, come here then, he can come up on the sofa. You coming up here? Come here then. Come here. Come on then. There we go. Not on the not on the knits. Not on the knitwear. Not on the knitwear. It's not there as a pillow for you. All right, fair enough. Anyway, yeah, I said the intro, didn't I? Where can you find me before we get into anything properly? You can find me on Instagram as @Emily_knits_. You can find me on Ravelry. By then, you can find me on Ravelry as Emily Knits 36. You can find me on email at emilyknitspodcast@gmail.com, and you can find me on Ko-fi if you would like to support the channel on there as Emily Knits. I do also have a wish list on Ravelry if you wanted to buy me a pattern to support the podcast that way. All of those details will be down below. Now my co-host has buggered off. Let me move things back where they were. Today I have the February stash busting roundup for you. So I did one of these in January. I'm a bit quicker with this one. I'm filming this on the 4th of March, 5th of March, and I'm hoping to get it up this afternoon. So I'm hoping to not have too much editing to do on this one. Famous last words. I thought though I would come and talk to you about what I've used in February, how I've found it, and what's come into stash and plans for March. So let's get into it. First things first, some stuff has come in and I've ballsed up. Good start. So some stuff came into stash, and because I was late filming my stash busting update last month, let me put this where I can see it. Because I was late filming my stash busting update last month, I completely forgot basically that I hadn't done my stash busting. And the things that I bought in February, I ended up adding to my stash spreadsheet. So I counted them in the January totals, despite the fact that they didn't come in January. So I'll tell you what's come in, but I'm going to count it as 0 in, because yes, it did come into February, but I have already counted it in the figures. Does that make any sense at all? Sort of makes sense in my head. So 2 things came in this month. First thing I haven't got here to show you because it's upstairs in the project bag. I was lucky, not really lucky, is it? I'm friends with Leah of Leah Amber Knits, and it's not lucky because she knows I test knit. She also test knits, and she's basically said if I want to test knit her designs, I can have a slot. It is very handy having a designer as a friend when you're somebody who loves test knitting. So I'm going to be test knitting her lakeside dress, which has just gone into testing a couple of weeks back, might be a bit longer than that. And I've mostly got stuff from stash to make that. I had to buy a little bit extra of something to do the bodice. So this is it's a dress, as the name might suggest, and the idea is that you knit the bodice. The bodice is quite nice and fitted, and that's knit with fingering weight yarn held single. You then have at your waist, you have a little I-cord channel and a tie, and then the skirt is knit in DK weight yarn to make the skirt go faster, or in fingering weight yarn held together. I have all of the DK weight yarn I need for the skirt. I've got multiple balls of Stylecraft Naturals, which is it's a light DK weight, but it is a DK weight cotton and bamboo blend, and I've got it all in. There's a navy, there's a couple of like pinky purpley shades, and then a purple as well. And then I had 3 balls of Drops Saffron in the shade navy, which is a 4-ply 100% cotton yarn from Drops. And that's what I'm going to use for the main bodice. Now I didn't quite have enough yardage on the top. I needed more yardage to be able to complete the top. So that's what I've bought, is 3 more balls of Drops Saffron. That was 380 metres into stash. That's all I bought. It cost me £3.20, I think, off Wool Warehouse, and I did pay for the postage. Part of me... Oh God. He's gone upstairs and she's chased him because I don't know. Life with 2 dogs is challenging sometimes. Any of you got toddlers? I feel like this is like having a toddler. When they go quiet, it's a bit nerve-wracking. I think he's all right. So yeah, I added 380 metres of Drops Saffron. They were, I think it cost me like maybe £3.20, £3.60. I think they were like £1.20 a ball, so £3.60. Very inexpensive. Drops Saffron is a nice yarn. It's not it's £3 something for 3 balls. It's £1 something a ball. You're not going to get super high quality for that, but it is a really good 100% cotton yarn that is great for things like, I made my Wicker Dreams tank top by Celine Phaeton out of it last year. It's a really good solid workhorse 100% cotton yarn. So that's what I'm using, and I got 3 balls of that. I resisted the temptation to order enough to get free shipping. I was so far off it that it really wasn't hard to. So yeah, that was fairly good, but that came in this month. I've started working with that already, and I've cast on the bodice, but I've not done very much, so I've not shown it on the podcast or anything yet. The other thing I bought was, am I going to say about this? No, I'm not going to say about this one. I'm going to say what it is, but I'm not going to say what it's going to be used for, because it's a present for somebody who watches, and I know they watch, and I don't want to ruin it. So I bought 2 big balls of this Wendy Aran with wool. This is one of the massive 400-gram balls of yarn you can get. There are multiple versions of this, and I think I'm going to try and do at some point this year a video comparing lots of these kind of Aran wool, acrylic wool blends, acrylics and things like that, to show what I like, what I don't like, what's available on the market. This is the Wendy version of it. So this is, I think it's an 80-20, is it? Oh no, they've changed it again. So it's 75% premium acrylic, 25% wool. Sorry, the ball band is, yeah, it's all the opposite way around. This is the shade Pine, which is this really nice, that's a very good true to life colour actually. It's a really nice deep khaki green. It's an Aran weight yarn. I am using it in a project on 5mm needles, which is what the ball band suggests, and it says 18 stitches and 24 rows on 5mm needles, and one of these big balls gives you 800 meters, and I bought 2, so 1600 meters came into stash with these. It's already been cast on. Like I say, I'm not going to say what it is or who it's for, but it has already been cast on and I'm already working on it. And there's a bit of a story behind this. So I was proud of myself. Again, I think these were like £12-13 a ball, so about £24. Again, I didn't order more to get free shipping, pleased myself for that. But I did originally order some different yarn, and I can't remember it wasn't Wendy, it was another one of these. It was another one of these really big balls, but it was a navy blue tweedy colour, which is what I originally thought. I had the vision in my head of what I wanted to make this sweater in. And it arrived, and I'll see if I've still got the picture and put it on the screen. I just really wasn't happy with the colour. It was a very bright blue. It wasn't a dark navy. Have I got anything? No, I haven't. This might get loud, but it was quite similar to the colour of a mic. So let me show you. It was more like that kind of blue than a navy blue, which is what I wanted. I wanted like a deep, slightly more cooler toned. It was almost like a royal blue, what I would call a royal blue. And it had really bright neon neps in it, which was not what I was going for and is not what the recipient would wear. So I ended up sending those back. I didn't realise, and this is again thanks to Leah of Leah Amber Knits, because I could have found this myself, but at no point have I ever gone and looked for this information. She pointed out that Wool Warehouse have a returns policy. So within, I think it's 60 days, you can send stuff back. You don't get your postage back, but it needs to be unused and you need to send it back. So yeah, I sent both of those back because straight away I knew the colour, I just wasn't happy with the colour. And I replaced them with these, which were actually slightly cheaper. So I did end up getting a little bit of my money back. Now, like I say, 1600 metres plus 380 metres from the drop saffron came in. However, yeah, they came in before I did my stash busting video last month, and I completely forgot to not put them in my totals. So that 1980 metres was included in the totals that we talked about last month. So technically nearly 2000 metres came in this month, but I'm not adding them because they were already added. I hope that makes sense. I'm not trying to just con you out of it. Which means that last month we were sitting at 136,928.88 metres of worth of yarn. And that was including the nearly 2000 metres that I'd brought in because, again, stupid. So let's talk about what came out, because quite a lot went out actually in February, and it seems more because, like I say, stuff came in, but I'd already counted it. So first off, the first thing I finished in February was this. Again, like last time, I'm not going to go into super amounts of detail about the project and how I found it. I'm just going to talk about the project, the designer, and the yardage that it's used, and the yarn. So this is the Sugar Puff sweater by Mac Dye Conley. This was a test crochet from Mac. This sweater is going to be out fairly soon, I think. The cuffs are turned inside out. This is a top-down drop shoulder sweater, crocheted in 1 strand of Aran weight yarn on 5mm hooks, needles. I caught myself. The original pattern, or the original sample that Mac made, was made in, I think, 2 strands of fingering held with a strand of mohair, so that is an option. Some testers, I think, did DK plus a mohair. I did 1 strand of Aran weight because I had yarn in stash to make it with, and this is what I have left. So this is another one of these big balls, and that shows you the difference. Like, it's much smaller, and also this is, see if I can show you, this is really squishy. Sorry, that was the postie, and I just want to show you this. I've been excited for this. I'm going to show you the back because it's got my address on it, obviously. I don't want that showing. I have a pen pal. I've just started a pen pal. I think sometimes she watches the podcast because she is also a knitter and crocheter. Definitely a knitter. Look how cute that envelope is. Oh my god, I'm so excited to open this and see. I can feel that there's lots of, not goodies, I can feel it's paper, but I'm so excited to open this. Okay. Yeah, where was I? What was I talking about? Oh, what on earth was I saying? Yeah, so I'd used these big balls. This is all I've got left of 2. I had 2 of these in stash, and there's very little left of this. If I compare that with this, that doesn't really squish. This is super dense. This is all I've got left of this. So this is the Stylecraft Special Aran with wool. Again, it's a 77% acrylic, 2%, 3%, I think, 3% nylon, polyester, sorry, which is the neps because it is a tweedy one. You can see it a bit better in the ball, I think, that it's tweedy. You can sort of see some little neps, and the rest is wool. So I had 2 balls in stash. I used up the vast majority of them, and this used up 1,348 metres of yarn. I started this in January, finished it in February. I could have finished it sooner in February, but I just put off doing the second sleeve, despite the fact that the second sleeve took me all of about 2 hours to do. It's a really nice, fairly oversized casual sweater in a really nice taupey sort of mushroomy brown shade with, yeah, not many tweed neps. Oh, there are tweed neps, but they're not showing because they are brown, cream and black. So they're not super noticeable. It's quite a nice subtle tweed, and I really like this. And as I said in the last one, crochet uses up yarn really quickly, so that was a nice one to whack out and get a big chunk out of stash. The next thing I finished, you've seen this if you watch my podcast. In fact, you've seen that if you watch my podcast as well. This was much more of a labour of love. This I started on the 20th of December and I finished it on the 21st of February. So almost bang on 2 months. This is the Burnt Umber cardigan by Kelsey of Knitting Nikabi. Did I say the Sugar Buff's going to be coming out shortly? The test finishes, I think, on the 10th of March, so it'll be releasing fairly soon after that. This one was also a test for Kelsey of Knitting Nikabi. That cuff is also inside each other. And this one is coming out this Friday coming on the 7th of March. So if you're wanting to get yourself a copy of this, which I would very highly recommend, then it's coming soon. This is a bottom-up cardigan that's knit in 2 colours. You hold one colour as your main colour, and then you have this other one over the top and for your cuffs and ribbon and everything. So this I used the contrast colour. No, I keep getting these the wrong way around. So in the pattern, the contrast colour is your black in this one, basically. The colour that's on the raglan, the colour that's on the collar and everything, and then your main colour is the colour that's behind. So I used for the main colour is Malabriga Arroyo in the shade Lotus, which is 100% superwash merino. I had 4 skeins of it in stash. And then the black is Drops Baby Merino in the shade Black, which is again 100% superwash merino. In total, this used up 964 metres of the main colour. Yes. And then 665 metres of the contrast colour. So in total, what's that? Oh, my maths isn't. Do you know what? I'll pop it on screen because I'm not going to be able to do that mental maths myself in my head. So I've got left this much of the Lotus colour, which is the majority of one skein. I think it's about 86 grams. And I've got a little bit of the black left as well. I've got an idea for what I want to do with the black. I think I'm going to use it in a Go-Go Dynamo shawl with some hand-dyed from Third Vault yarns that I have in stash. But this is lovely. So what's that? It's in total, it's what, about 1,800 metres. It is quite a yarn eater because you're using 2 colours all the way through. And I made mine cropped. So if I'd made it to the full length, I would have used up even more yarn. But this is stunning. I've worn it already over the weekend. I got compliments from my mum on it because we went out in Nottingham. And yeah, really highly recommend this. Very fun to knit, very enjoyable, and really, really beautiful to wear. So big chunk gone there. This one you haven't seen. Yeah, we will go through this one next. This one you haven't seen. So there's a story behind this. So you may have heard me mention on the podcast before Rachel of The Restful Knitter, she doesn't have a podcast, she just has an Instagram, and she is a viewer of the podcast. I think she watches these as well. She's a viewer of the podcast, and she's also a friend, a really good friend. She's absolutely lovely. And I've mentioned her before because she's done some samples for me before. She's done some socks for me before. She's helped me out with some stuff. She is very much a process knitter more than a product knitter. So she really likes knitting for other people. She test knits a lot. She sample knits a lot. And she is super generous with her time with things like that. So she tested those for me before. And when I'd said that I was going to do a series, and I still am, I'm working on it, of knitting the same pattern multiple times in different yarns to really deep dive into gauge and drape and fabric and fibre and all that sort of stuff. And she, when I said about that, said, I can help with that. Would you like me to help? And she'd offered to knit a sample for me, one of them, because basically that series is going to mean that I'm knitting the same sweater over the course of this year, probably 4 or 5 times. So to help out, she basically said, do you want me to do one? And I'd sent her some yarn. Let me get you some to show you because it's all noodly and I like it. That sounds really weird. It will make sense. I'd sent her some yarn from my stash, which she had started working with for me. It's all noodly. You can see that obviously this didn't work out. So I'd picked a pattern, and I'm not going to say the pattern or anything because I don't want it to sound like it's a problem with the pattern. I've not knit it myself, so I can't really talk about it, but she was having challenges with it, and I don't know if it was the yarn or if it was the pattern or if it was the combination of the two. Essentially, she was using woolly knit held double. This is from a woolly knit cone. But yeah, she was holding it double for me to get a DK weight because it was a DK weight sweater that I'd chosen, and this was going to be the 100% wool version, which was what the pattern was originally designed to be knitting. So I thought, great, get her to do the sort of intended one, and then I do the one playing about with different fibres and stuff. And it just wasn't, it was creating a really dense fabric. I didn't want it to be something like that. It was creating a really dense fabric, a really sort of stiff fabric. And I think that just is how it's intended to be in the sweater. But I didn't want something like that because then that makes it really hard to see the differences between fibres, between drape, stuff like that. So after we went back and forth, we chatted about ideas and stuff, and I decided I'm going to pick a completely different pattern. So she ripped it out, she sent the yarn back to me, and then basically, because she's just such a lovely person, she said, what else can I help with? I feel bad that I've not been able to help. What else can I help with? So we agreed that she was going to knit this for me. This was a test knit for the Knit Pearl Girl. She knit it using my yarn. So this feels like a bit of a cop-out because I haven't knit it, but it is my yarn, so it's come out of stash, and it was in the counts. So this is the Loose Sweater by the Knit Pearl Girl. I will pop this one on to show you because I've not actually, I've not worn it on the podcast. This was a test knit, but it's now out. She'd signed up to test it, so she did it in my yarn. Oh god, okay, it doesn't look very good with this t-shirt because it's sitting out the top. Please ignore that because it's lovely, it's really lovely, but I wouldn't wear it with this. So she knit it in Herbie Colorina. I've got some left, and she knit this for me, essentially got the feedback, sent it into the Knit Pearl Girl as needed, and then it sent me the yarn back that hasn't been used and the garment. So I wouldn't normally do that, especially for a test knit, but it still works for the designer. She's got the feedback, and this is now out, so if you wanted to get this, you can. This is a beautiful, it's all slip stitches at the top, this texture, it's got this wide raglan, and then the rest of the body is in stockinette, which you can't see very well because this yarn is striping, and there is also some detail on the cuffs of eyelets and things. So yeah, she knit this for me in the yarn that I sent her, and I had 1,600 metres of this, 1,800 metres of this, I think. 1,600 metres, and this is all I've got left from it. So I've got, this is a full 50 gram ball. 50 gram gives you 50 50 grams gives you 200 metres. I should have said as well, this is an 80% acrylic, 20% virgin wool blend, and it's lovely. It's really nice. It's got these lovely colour changing to it, and I don't know if you can see, it's almost like a roving. There's no twist to it really, but because it's got that acrylic in it, it's got a lot of strength. So with this, roving is quite often a bit delicate to work with. So with this, because it's got that acrylic in it, you get the effect of roving without having the issues of it pulling apart. That didn't pull apart. I just pulled the end out basically. So this used up 1,216 metres of yarn, and I've loved this. I've been wearing this quite a bit actually. It's a bit out of my normal comfort zone because it's pastel colours, but it's so nice. I really, really like it. And it has striped, which I didn't expect seeing it in the ball. It definitely has striped, but it's beautiful. I don't know if you can see there, it's sort of, there's some pinks, some blues, some purples, and there's a little bit of sort of greeny, tealy colour. It's really nice. I'm proper in like a pastel pink here at the moment, which is really not me. Blues and pinks are really, really calling to me. But yeah, loose sweater. Out now if you want to go get yourself one, would recommend it definitely. 1,216 metres of yarn. I should say this isn't the pattern that I'm choosing to do the samples in for the series I was talking about, but it is another Knit Pearl Girl pattern I've picked, and I'm going to be starting on that very soon, so you will see the first one of those coming soon. And then we'll go on to stuff that I've destashed. There is some more stuff I've been doing, but I want to go on to the destash because it's linked to the loose sweater. So Rachel, basically, again, being a really lovely person, what we had agreed with this was she was going to keep the remains of the woolly knit once she'd finished knitting it, because she's never actually knit with it for herself, I don't think, not the 4-ply. So she wanted to keep it and use it as colour work in something else. I've said she still can, when I've got a plan for what I'm going to do with these. I'm still going to be holding them double. I'm going to be casting on fairly shortly with these. But she still will get the remains of this when I'm finished with that. And I also sent her, I said, did she also want, as a thank you and payment basically, I had some remains of 2 other cones of woolly knit. So one was in the shade Autumn Glow and one was in the shade Mallard. The Autumn Glow I used to make my Whitmore sweater, which I used held with some mohair. And the Mallard I used to make my Opula yoke by Marina Skewer, which I think you should have seen on the podcast before. I think I've worn that one on the podcast before. Both of them are, the Opula I think is 2.5, 3 years old, and the Whitmore is at least 2. And if by this point I've still not used the rest of those cones, I'm not going to use them. So they were in my stash. I didn't know what to do with them. I showed her the colours and said, would you like? And the Mallard I knew she'd want anyway, because it's very much her colour, and the Autumn Glow goes really nicely with it. So she's taken both of those off me. So one of those had 1,006 metres remaining on it, and one of those had 1,386 metres remaining on it. They have both gone and they've both destashed. She has taken also a half-finished project that I've decided I'm not going to finish, but I hadn't put the yarn from that into my count, so I'm not including that in here. But yeah, just to say that I haven't just given her a couple of half-finished cones of yarn to say thank you for an entire sweater. And then this is gonna crinkle, so sorry. The last remaining thing I've been working on is these. Let me take some of these out of the bag. In fact, I'll just take them all out. So I haven't shown these on the podcast at all because they are quite basic, I guess. I had a load of little bits, minis, mostly minis, but a couple of larger balls of hand-dyed DK weight in stash. Some of them are merino, some of them are sock yarn. Some of them came from mystery boxes. Some of them came from blanket clubs, a variety of places. Some of them came from Destashes. And I decided I was just gonna, I haven't really got a massive crochet project on the go at the moment. I've got a crochet blanket that I'm working on, the Be More Vivienne blanket, but these, I kind of wanted something that I could just make lots of little bits and piece them together. So I've decided to make a hexie blanket, following the tutorial from Mima Makes Again. She has a really fantastic tutorial for this on her YouTube channel. I'm doing it with ever so slight differences, but I am mostly following hers. So I'm not doing the invisible join that she does, just because I'm going to do a different joining method. And I am doing chain 2 to start a round instead of chain 3, because I think I chain quite loosely, and if I do chain 3 I get a bit of an extra lump. So I'm doing the chain 3, but chain 2 instead of chain 3, but I've been making loads of these. There's a variety of different colours. There's these ones. These two were both from Gamer Crafting in a mystery box. This was some Ruffles Crochet Creations, I think is the name on Etsy. Say some random Destashes. We've got some orangey coloured ones. These are like blues, and this is all pinks and blues, which is really nice. There's some greens, some other greens, some purpley ones, some other purpley ones. And did I show you the orange? I did show you the orange. There's also these like pastel-y ones. And I've used, I think it's 230 grams of hexes I've got here, basically. I'm just doing these on a 5mm hook. It takes me about 10 minutes to do one. So when I want a bit of a break from knitting and my hands are a bit sore, I just pick up one of these and I make a couple of hexes. And over the month of February, I have done 230 grams worth of yarn, which is 506 meters of DK weight yarn. So another 500 meters has gone out just in these. This is going to be an ongoing project, obviously. It's going to take me most of the year to complete that. And then I've got to join, which I do have some yarn in stash that I can join with. I've got loads of some King Cole Big Value DK that will should join really nicely. It's not my favourite to crochet with, but it'll work. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to count how many I've done in the month and weigh them, and then I'll show that as the total for the month. So I'm not going to, basically I'm going to make sure I don't recount these in March, if that makes sense. So in total, that means that we had 7,091 meters out in February, sorry. Again, if I'd not remembered to take those if I'd not forgotten to put those figures in, that would have been about 5,000 meters, wouldn't it? Because I brought in 1,980 meters. That still would have been a really good month, actually, 5,000 meters. But I'm really pleased with that. That means that our total now is down to 129,837.88 meters, which, when you consider that in the beginning of January we were starting at 140,705 meters, we're now down to 129,837. It's quite a drop. It's over 10,000 meters. And that feels really good. 2 months in, that feels really good. I'd really like to get under 100,000 meters, but we're not quite there yet. Okay, so that's everything I've used and everything I've brought in. In terms of how I found it, February was immensely harder than January. Immensely harder. I came so close multiple times to buying yarn, and that was partly why I did things like buying that for the gift, because I knew I didn't have any in stash to make what I wanted to make, the pattern I picked, but also partly because it just sort of filled the void. It's not a void, is it? You know what I mean? It filled the urge to satisfy the urge to buy, but was something that I knew I wanted to make that I would cast on straight away. And yeah, I think part of it entirely was there's been quite a lot of uncertainty this month for us. So in the beginning of February, I had a week off work because I had an operation on the 31st of January, and part of it was definitely from that. I found it in that week because I was at home, I was recovering. My husband was at home with me for the first 2 days of that week, so he was at home with me over the weekend. My operation was on a Friday. He was at home with me over the weekend, and I think he had Monday, Tuesday off, and then he went back to work. And I found by Thursday I was bored out of my brain. I was feeling sorry for myself because I think I touched on in my podcast, I had completely underestimated how long it would take me to recover, just in terms of energy and exhaustion. It took me by surprise, and it meant that I was bored. I was feeling sorry for myself. I definitely, and I think you've seen some of them in the podcast, I went a bit mad with new cast-ons because I kind of treated myself to those instead of buying yarn. And I found in that week very much I was really tempted to go and just buy myself something to make myself feel better. And I found it really interesting looking at the why of that, because I was trying not to buy yarn. I was looking at why are you doing that? And it always came down to, I want that endorphin hit, I want that dopamine hit, I want to feel good, I don't really even want the yarn. I was looking at it and going, yeah, but do I want it? Not really, but I want to buy it. And it was turning out it was the action of buying something that was what I wanted, which is not good. So the psychology of it was really interesting. And there's been a bit of uncertainty just around work, not anything bad, but I mentioned briefly I'm having a change in my role, and I'm handing over with the person that I'm taking over from. There's been a lot of background stuff to that, you know, what it's going to look like, when it's going to start. Let's be honest, what I'm going to be paid to do it as well, that are conversations that I'm needing to have. but it's led to a bit of uncertainty around it. Nothing negative, but just, again, at the back of my mind, I've wanted to be like, okay, just go buy yourself something, that'll make you feel better. So there's been a lot of wanting to because kind of thing. But overall it has been, I mean, I've managed to do it, and I'm really pleased by those numbers, really pleased. I am going to East Anglia Yarn Fest this year. I'd said last year that I wanted to go to one of the Southern festivals because a lot of the people that I know in the community, a lot of people that I consider friends, are based down in the south of England, and I'm obviously realistically, I'm on the edge of the north, aren't I? I know to people who live in the south, anything past London is north, but realistically, I'm at the top of the Midlands, and I'm not far from Yorkshire, which I think most people would consider the north. I think it's only about 10 minutes that way, and you go into Yorkshire. So I don't get to see them very often. So I'm going more for the social thing than anything. But I was a bit like, I don't know how I'm going to do this. I don't want to go mad. I don't want to buy yarn. I said to myself, I might buy some DK weight minis because this is, I didn't show and I meant to. This is all I've got left, I think. There's a couple more minis upstairs, but this is the big bulk I've got left. So this is a Game of Crafting, and these two are both Destashes on Facebook, I think. So these are the big chunk I've got left, and that's not going to be enough to make a DK weight blanket. I could, and I probably will, hold some fingering weight minis double to get a DK weight, but I thought I might get some DK weight minis to go in this basically throughout the year, but that will be all I'd get. And then we had a bit of a change. So I've been thinking about getting into spinning for a bit. I have tried drop spindles a couple of times. I've had a drop spindle, I've had a Turkish drop spindle, and I just don't get on with it very well. I have a recurring problem with this shoulder, and the movement of drawing and drafting with the drop spindle. I can't do it for as long as I would like without this starting to hurt, because it's a very different movement, and I'm looking down on it doing it as well, which even doing that then actually caused it to twinge a bit. So it's meant that I can't do it for very long, I can't do it very often, and that therefore means, because I'm a bit of a perfectionist and I seem to have in my head that I should be good at things straight away, that I struggle with it because I'm not as good at it as I would like to be. So I've had a few attempts at it and I've never been very good, and I've ended up getting rid of the drop spindles and the fibre that I had because I didn't have massive amounts of fibre. And then I said to myself, particularly if my yarn band went well this year, towards the end of the year, I was going to look at getting myself a wheel or an e-spinner. I'd resign myself to the fact that either one of those are very expensive, full price. They're several £100s, they're like £400 for a decent one, and I don't want to necessarily get a cheap one because then that's not going to help, is it? You know. But I think that movement, I'd be careful doing that off screen, that sort of spinning movement that way doesn't hurt as much as the up and, again, I need to be careful doing that. It doesn't hurt as much as the up and down movement of my shoulder does. The back and forwards doesn't, and I think I could do that for longer without any issues. So yeah, I decided I wanted to get one later in the year. Hadn't decided whether I wanted a traditional wheel or an e-spinner. Would love a traditional wheel, but we don't have massive amounts of space in the house for one, so I was leaning towards an e-spinner, and I'd resigned myself to the fact that even second hand I was probably going to be looking at upwards of £200. And then one of my friends sent me a link yesterday to somebody who, and this was one of my friends who is a spinner. So I've been bugging because I've been like, is this a good one? Is this a good one? What about this? Is this a good one? And she sent me the link to somebody that was selling an eel wheel nano, electric eel wheel nano, is that the full name of it? For a really good price, for £90 plus postage. And I instantly went, I'm never going to see it that cheap again. I'm never going to see it that cheap again. And she'd said it's in really good nick, everything that you need is there, it's fully working. She's put that in the ad, and you know, it was everything was good. So I purchased the electric eel wheel. It isn't here yet. It should be arriving hopefully tomorrow. I think it's going to be posted today. But that's quite good timing because I'm planning now to get some fibre at East Anglia Yarn Fest. Instead of getting yarn, I get a little bit of fibre. And again, my friend who spins is there with me. I'm meeting her there, and she's going to help me pick some stuff that is suitable for beginners, that isn't, you know, I'm not going to get some art yarn bat that's going to be a nightmare to spin and then I've got a problem. She's going to help me pick something suitable. And I'm so excited about that. I said to somebody, it feels like I'm opening up Pandora's box of another hobby that's going to take all my time and money. But it's something I've wanted to try. I see people doing spinning and I would love to be able to do that. And I just can't. And I think it might help me with loads of new cast-ons, and it might help me with loads of impulsive yarn purchases if I'm purchasing instead fibre, which isn't exactly, it isn't exactly much more cost effective. But if I'm purchasing fibre and then spinning that up into a quantity to knit with and then starting the project, I'm just lengthening the process, aren't I? So I can be a little bit more mindful with it and a little bit more steady with it. And I'm extremely, extremely excited for that to arrive and to play about with it. And also to be absolutely crap at it to begin with. I'm completely expecting that to begin with, I'm going to be terrible. And I need to keep that in my mind because, like I said, a bit of a perfectionist, want to be great at it straight away. So yeah, that should be arriving shortly. And that's my plan now, is to pick a little bit of fibre from East Anglia. I don't want to get loads. I don't want to do what I did when I started knitting, which was I had a little bit, and then when I decided I liked it, I bought a massive job lot of yarn off eBay. Massive. It was like 10 kilos or something stupid. And it was such a big mix of different things. So I want to be quite sensible about what I get with my fibre. Again, friend's going to help me, Mona's going to help me pick stuff that's suitable, and I can learn on it. I can take my time, and then maybe once I've used that and I've spun that and I'm more confident, then I look at getting some other stuff for myself as well. But yeah, I will let you know what fibre I get as well and what fibre comes in, because whilst it's not yarn, it is still in stash, so I'm going to keep an eye on that. But yeah, that's everything to update you on this month. So yeah, like I said, total for at the end of February is 1,000. Again, wishful thinking. I wish it was 1,000. 129,837.88 metres. So much, much better, going down quite rapidly, and I'm very pleased with that. I should have mentioned at the top of the episode, I'm running a Stash Down Make Along across the year, which there will be prizes and things like that. So if you are joining me and you're wanting to destash, you're wanting to stash down, you can join on Instagram. You can join via email if you want to email me your entries. I know a couple of you already have, and it's been so lovely to see them. And we do have a Discord as well, which I'll put a link to below. So if you want to be part of the social side of it, or you want to post your entries on there, you can. All of that is down below as well. I've waffled for far longer than I thought I was going to. I thought this was going to be a nice quick little update video, and we're sat here at 40 minutes. So Emily can't do short videos, we know this. So I'm going to leave you there, and thank you again for keeping with me while I go through this. March is looking like it might be a good month, because I've already finished a project, which is just there, which is why I'm looking there. And I'm hoping I've got a couple of others that will be finished, although one of them is a sample, so that won't count, and there will be yarn coming in from that. But I'm hoping March will be another good month. I have just done a destash as well. I've actually sold some stuff because I felt a bit guilty about buying the spinner. So went and sold some yarn. There is still some of that left. If you want to go on my Instagram, keep an eye on my Instagram because I tend to post in my stories. I'm potentially going to be adding some other stuff. So if you want to destash, keep your eyes out. And on that note, I will say thank you very much for your time, and I'll speak to you on the next one. Bye, guys.